Welcome to Ilagan Whiteboard Friday, where we look at complex legal and compliance issues in a simple to do way. This series is brought to you by Ilagan, your partner and provider of end-to-end business services.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Ilagan Whiteboard Friday. I have this is Vikash from Ilagan team, and I have with me today Mr. Madan Ahluwalia from Silicon Valley, California. He's an attorney at law, practicing general law here. Hello, Madan.
Hi.
Today we want to talk about if a company or an entrepreneur in India, they want to start a company here in the US. What are the various choices? What is the right business structure for them to choose? So can you say how many types of business structures are there here?
Yeah, absolutely. The menu selection is pretty long, right? And here's a general menu selection that there's a sole proprietorship, then there's a partnership, LLC, C corporation, and S corporation. So I will briefly talk about each and every one. So if you're by yourself, then sole proprietorship is the way, right? However, if somebody is coming from India and they don't have the right to work, that might not be an option. The other one is partnership. You can have two kinds of partnership. One is general partnership, which is generic in nature, and the other one is limited partnership, meaning it can be for a limited purpose, it can be for a limited period of time. Again, the right to work affects whether you can make this selection or not. The third one is LLC, is called limited liability company. Okay, and limited liability company is basically a mix between a partnership and the C corporation. It gives you the legal protection which is available to corporations. However, it gives you the flexibility of partnership that you can move things around and it's not as rigid as a corporation. And C corporation and S corporations are two forms of corporation. However, from an immigrant or Indian business standpoint, C corporation is more favorable because S corporation does not allow alien shareholders. Okay, so C corporation and another thing which we can talk about is that C corporation, the difference between C corporation and LLC.
Yeah, so I think we're going to cover that in the
yeah.
So now that's a long list. So what are the factors? Some of the factors that can affect making that decision as to what is the right structure for that.
Right. So you know how there's a saying that begin with an end in mind. It really applies to when you're starting a business. Okay, and the factors are listed here as well. One is the immigration factor, which is always important from a company which is international or that involves non-US citizens. The other one is business factors. The third one is tax purposes, and the other one is investment or growth or exit strategy. So let's take them one by one. So from any company that is coming from India or international business, immigration is always a big one. Okay, so how it affects is that depending on how the company is set up, there might be some immigration benefits that might be available or not. For example, the right to work is directly affected by how companies set up from an immigration perspective. The second one is business, like where the company location will be.
Location like state-wise or?
Location meaning physical location, where the company's headquarters is going to be based, where the physical office is going to be based, where the employees are going to come from, and where the records need to be kept, and where the agent of service will be nominated. And the second one is partnership. And what I mean by that is if you and I enter into a partnership, right, we will have one form of entity as opposed to if I'm going to go out and seek money from
venture capitalists.
Yeah.
Also, this is true if you're going to have employees, and if you're going to have employees and you may want to give stock options to them, or a partnership based on who gets associated with them, board of advisors and others.
Right? Absolutely. So those are all valid business reasons.
Yeah.
And the third one is tax. And keeping in mind that I'm a lawyer, I'm not a CPA, there are always tax issues which pertain to state tax laws and international tax laws. Okay, so always make sure to consult with your CPA for this big factor. So the fourth factor is investment, growth, or exit factor. Okay, and what I mean by that is that if your goal is to take the company public, or if your goal is to have the company be acquired by another company. Then you will follow a different strategy, which means you will probably have to set up a C corporation so that you can have the proper structure, proper shareholder status, and then have an ability to give away the shares to the investors.
Yeah.
Okay, and growth is tied to the investment, right? Because if you want to stay small, then you'll have a different consideration, and then finally the exit strategy. If you want to be acquired, so they all kind of tie together.
Yeah. So just to draw a quick parallel here, C corporation is closest to the private limited company that we have in India, where you are able to issue individual stocks. That is the only form of, correct me if I'm wrong, that is the only form of business which allows you to issue stock options. You can have one stock given to a person and 1,000 stocks given to another person.
You're right.
Great. So now let's talk about the two major forms, the LLC and the C corporation. Can we talk just a little bit in more detail, because most likely people are going to do one of the two forms.
Okay, so if you can allow me, I'll just try to write the main points. The one is small versus big. Okay, if you want to stay small, okay, a small group of people or in a small size of the company, then LLC is okay with you. But if you want to go big, then C corporation is the answer. The other difference is the shares. Okay, you kind of alluded to it. In C corporation, the corporation is being set up, the shares are being issued, and the founders are also paying their services, or they're bringing in their time and they're buying the share. And the third one is taxation. Okay, in C corporation, the corporation will be taxed at the corporation level, and then whosoever is receiving the funds, either in the form of salary or in the form of dividends, they have to pay their own individual taxes. And LLC, on the other hand, it can be considered as what is known as pass-through.
Can you tell us what is pass-through? I've heard this term quite a bit.
Yeah. So in LLC, basically, first of all, you can have 1 or 100 members.
Okay.
The second thing is LLC can also make an election, either to be taxed as an individual level, or it can be taxed at a corporation level. And how that decision is made, I don't know the answer. That is when you contact your CPA. The third one is that to explain the difference of pass-through, when the election is made, whether the LLC will be taxed at an individual level or corporation level, you are making a selection. Okay? So let us say I have a company. I have a corporation, that's Ahluwalia Corporation, which is a C corporation, right? Then my company will be taxed at the corporate level first. Right?
Okay.
And then if I'm the only shareholder, okay, and I'm receiving majority of the money either as an income or in form of dividend, then I will be taxed at the second level. So it's almost a double taxation. But in LLC, if you make a selection to be taxed at individual level, then you avoid the double taxation.
So can LLC also have, let's say if there is a venture capitalist out there who wants to put $1 million in the company, can an LLC accept venture capital? Or
technically, a business entity can accept any investment.
Okay.
I think the question is, would a venture capitalist invest in an LLC or not? From what I understand about the business, they would want the corporate structure to be a C corporation, and they would probably want to have shares in there. And as you all know, that the shares are of different kinds. General shares, preferred shares. So depending on how it is set up, an investor will probably want the structure to be set up in a particular way, and only then they would invest.
Now, can we talk a little bit about consideration, because it's different from a local person going in and forming a company versus a company or entrepreneur coming from India.
Correct.
So what are some of the special considerations they have to go through?
So I think for Indian companies or founders who are coming into the US, immigration and investment growth or exit strategy is probably the biggest, followed by the tax. For the purpose of the discussion here, we will focus narrowly on the immigration purposes. So I'll try to give an example.
Okay.
Let us say, there's an Indian company and they want to set up a US company. They can be set up as a joint venture, or it can also be set up as a subsidiary. Okay. And then based on how the company is set up, the Indian company owner, who is the founder for the US company, they can also obtain the L1 status. Right? Of course, certain requirements have to be met in terms of the relationship between the two companies. And there are strict requirements as to how long the business owner has worked for the company. And there are strict requirements as to what happens to the Indian company. And the rule of thumb is that the company in India, the foreign company, it has to remain in existence, means it has to go on. And then lastly, there has to be a suitable person that must continue to run the business in India. Okay? But the bottom line is for the founder to come here, they can get an L1 visa. And the biggest advantage is that down the road, when the business is set up and the business is steady and they have a bit of a history, the founder can apply for the green card and get the green card anywhere from 6 months to 12 months. And they don't have to be in the long queue, which normally applies for all the other employment-based green card categories.
Interesting. Now, but just to start a company, they don't need to have any kind of visa, right? They can start a company while they are still sitting in India and they don't have any visa.
Well, in order to start a company, they have to have a physical address.
Okay.
They also have an agent for service.
Yes.
But other than that, they don't have to be here.
And they can appoint that to be either one of their employees or a registered agent can do that. They don't have to be physically.
They can even appoint their attorneys to be agent of service.
Okay.
And there are agents of service who charge you a nominal yearly fees.
Yes.
And they will be working as your agent for service, for a fee.
Yeah. By the way, eLagan does provide that services. We provide you with local addresses and local agents. We work with a lot of attorneys to do that.
Correct.
Is there anything else on it?
So for the Indian company, the founder's perspective, investment, growth, and exit strategies is also very, very important. And they should be careful when setting up the company.
So can you elaborate a little bit what do you mean by investment and growth?
Yeah. So investment is if your objective is to raise funds, right? Then you have to probably go the C corporation route.
Okay.
If not, then you can set up any other way. And from a technical perspective, any person can also be an employer. In other words, you don't have to go through all of this, and you can come in and get an EIN number, and we discuss EIN number in another segment, and start doing business.
Is any of these businesses more challenging to keep, or is there more paperwork or just regulations are more in a particular type versus the other, especially between LLC and C Corp?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the higher the ranking and the higher the benefit, higher the bookkeeping and the cost requirements. So, for example, for C corporation, you have to have proper bookkeeping, you have to have proper accounting, you have to have legal compliance. So you have to take care of all the record keeping requirements, and therefore the burden to be in a particular form of business is definitely higher.
Great. No, this is great. Thanks a lot. And we will see you again next week for another episode of eLagan Whiteboard Friday. And do visit our knowledge base at elagan.com/kv. Thank you.
Thank you.